Hello and welcome to episode 140 of the HamCorp Training Manual. In this episode, we build the biggest multi-block in the game, the Forge of the Gods. Its name will be George. The board has assigned extra resources to the production of this training video, so we hope you enjoy the entire video. Today's the day I'm gonna get the godforge done. His name will be George. I just need a few more parts. The Celestial Matter guidance casings are quite expensive. They're starting to seem to me to be kind of the most expensive part, just because I need so many and they're expensive. But I think on a per block basis, this one is probably more expensive, the siphon casing. Well, maybe not, I don't know, it's hard to say. But anyway, making the Celestial guidance casings needs a lot of stuff. And I'm looking at all this plasma, and this is a lot of weighting. So I've started making parts for another compact fusion reactor. I'm gonna make at least one more, maybe two, I don't know. But no matter what, godforge is happening this episode.
Well, if it isn't the CEO. Working hard or hardly working? Perhaps you are hard at work, or is your work too hard? I suppose it does not matter. Your superiors are satisfied for now. It seems your progress has been noticed after all. The wrong pig in the right pen can make all of the difference in the overworld and all the other worlds. I do apologize for stopping too much of your time. It seems you are entering the end game, but an end is but a beginning in reverse. Wake up, Touge. Wake up and smell the bacon. How the fuck does G-Man talk?
George has been constructed. That was an endeavor. It took me genuinely 4 hours to build this thing. Well, I was also editing at the same time, so you could do it a lot faster than 4 hours. We can turn this on, but unfortunately with shaders, it's not going to look great. I don't want to turn off shaders because I don't want the gorge to look good at the cost of everything else. So we're just going to have to live with it, I guess, until someone makes a fix for the shaders. For now, my star at the center of George for everything is just going to be the sun, because this is kind of the only way I can make it look good right now. But once this machine is on and the ring is spinning and there's a neutron star in the center, it's going to look really weird. Speaking of turning it on, how do you turn it on? This is quite a complicated multi. The tooltip doesn't tell you anything because you need so much more information that there's basically a whole book in the multi, and I gotta read all of this. So far, I've just read the fuel section of table of contents because that's all I need to actually turn the machine on. And in its current state, George actually can't do anything. It's nothing more than decoration at this point because I haven't made any modules for it. We'll come back to modules in a second. But to turn on the multi, I'm gonna have to supply star fuel, which earlier I thought had no use, but yeah, it does. I need to supply star fuel in a input bus, and I need to supply dimensionally transcendent residue in an input hatch. And while the machine is on, these two things will be consumed. Kinda slowly, but they will be consumed, so it's something to keep in mind. Now I need to make a bunch of star fuel, so I'm going to do that. And once that's done, I'm going to connect this up and turn the machine on. In the meantime, let's look at the quests. So Project Godforge is now done. There's a quest here called No It's Not a Typo to make lossless phonon transfer medium. The typo, I guess, would be phonon. It's not a typo. Phonons are something else. They are not the same as photons. But anyway, making lossless phonon transfer medium is an ABS recipe with some pretty standard stuff at this point. But I need saturated phononic crystal solution. And this stuff, I don't see how I can make it with a normal blast furnace because the heat capacity required is 17,000 Kelvin. And even with eternal coils, I would need to overclock the shit out of my mega blast furnace to get to this temperature. And I'm not even sure it's possible. I haven't checked though. But regardless, it's too high. And I think I can't really do this quest. It is a checkbox quest, so I can finish it. But I think the way I make this is actually with this quest, or with this module, the Helioflare Power Forge. I think the quest dependency is backwards. I think this should depend on this, not the other way. But anyway, to make the Helioflare Power Forge, this is the recipe. It needs a stack of mega blast furnaces, a stack of multi-smelters, and a bunch of other normal stuff. The scan is a mega blast furnace, and the construction is kind of linked to the Godforge. So if you see this circular bit, or I guess this is more like an octagon, but I guess it's supposed to be a circle. This circular bit already exists on the Godforge, and it is these things. So I need to add the modules on this side, the rest of the structure I mean, like this protruding spike bit. That needs to go over here, pointing inwards. And then the controller goes in place of the Singularity Reinforced Stellar Shielding Casing, which means each Godforge has 16 module slots, which is probably plenty. I don't expect to need more than one of these. I hope. So I'm going to craft up my Helioflare Power Forge as well, and then I can turn George on. I bet he'd like that. While the rest of my parts for the Helioflare continue to craft, let's quickly talk about upgrading and milestones. The Godforge has its own unique upgrade mechanic, and it's all explained here, if you can stomach all the reading. Or you can just trust me to have adequate reading comprehension, which is not something I would recommend you do. But if you do that, then I can explain in short what's covered in this wall of text. So, milestones are challenges, so to speak. You can get to the milestone overview page by clicking this little flag over here. And there are 4 types: charge, conversion, catalyst, and composition. If you click it, it tells you what you need to do to level up the milestone or to reach the next milestone in each category. Charge is pretty simple. It's simply EU consumed. Throw power at the machine, and once you supply enough power, you'll obtain a graviton shard. When I reach level 1, I will have consumed 1 trillion, I think this is. No, it's quadrillion. 1 quadrillion EU, and that will give me 1 graviton shard. Level 2 will give me 2 graviton shards, and then that keeps increasing. So I get more graviton shards the more milestones I complete, but also each milestone takes longer than the last one. That's charge. Conversion is very similar. It's just the number of recipes processed. Pretty straightforward. Catalyst is the number of fuel units consumed. The fuel consumption can be set in the controller. I'll come back to that. But besides that, it works the same as the others. And finally, composition. Composition, the graviton shard stuff is the same, but composition refers to the number of extensions built. So adding modules or adding rings. Either of those will grant me points in composition, and that will help me complete more milestones, giving me more graviton shards. Graviton shards are the currency of upgrades in the Forge of the Gods. So if you look at the Path of Celestial Transcendence, the up arrow button, like the upgrade button, this shows you the full tree of upgrades. I'm not going to go super in-depth into every single one, because there's no point. But basically, all you need to do is click on an upgrade. It shows you the graviton shard cost on the bottom left, and it shows you how many graviton shards you have on the bottom right. I haven't read through this very first upgrade, the one called Start, but I do know that this is required to use the Helioflare Power Forge. I think most of this is lore, so I'm going to read it on my own time, but I'm not going to go through this. Unless there's some insanely wrong physics that bothers me in here, but at this point, everything is sci-fi, so I kind of expect everything to be fantastical. Just from quickly reading this, the Start upgrade will unlock 8 module slots, 1 ring, and the Power Forge, which I've made. I'm also capped to 2 billion EU per tick and 15,000 Kelvin, so I still won't be able to make the phononic lossless medium. Or what is it? Lossless phononic medium. And also, I can't even do this upgrade because there's a little button here that says upgrade needs additional materials. And it's nothing too crazy. It's just some parts that I need to supply. Pretty easy. And once I do that, then I can actually click construct, and that will unlock Start. The next upgrade is going to need a graviton shard. So I'm going to need to set up my Power Forge to get my first graviton shard, and then we can look at that. All right. The Power Forge is in place. The UI is pretty straightforward. It looks like most other multis. It's just textured a little differently. The main difference here is the mode. So there's furnace mode and there's blast mode. Furnace mode does not contribute to milestone progression, but blast mode does. However, I do want to do my furnace recipes in here just because it's going to be so much faster than multi-smelting. So maybe I'll make another Power Forge. Anyway, for now, I'm going to leave this on blast mode. It says status disconnected. That is easily fixed by going to the main controller and clicking refresh module connection status. Or not, because apparently NEI is not correct. I just noticed this, but if I right click this, the structure is actually incomplete, so NEI is a little wrong. This needs to be covered up, and I also assume that this is where the inputs and outputs go for the module. That would make a lot of sense. I was wondering where that goes. Now, it still says disconnected, but I have a suspicion that that's just because the multi-block is not on. So let's turn this thing on now. I'm supplying my star fuel, I'm supplying my DT residue, and the machine has come on. It's pretty ugly with the shaders on. Oh, well, it's not that bad. Okay, it's pretty bad. It's much better with the shaders off. Look at this. That's so much better. Look at that. I feel like I've been here before. Anyway. And now this should have connected, and indeed it has. And this is consuming fuel, even though we're not doing anything. But that's fine, because fuel consumption contributes to my milestone progression. Catalyst. As you can see, the fuel units are going up ever so slowly, but they are going up, which is good. And I have 1 composition milestone completed, which means I have 1 graviton shard to spend. And I'm going to spend it right now on IGCC. Improved Gravitational Convection Coils. This gives me a recipe time reduction multiplier based on the heat of the machine. But I looked at this function. It is very, very slowly growing. So The difference between 10,000 Kelvin and 100,000 Kelvin is almost nothing. At 10,000 Kelvin, I get a 91% speed reduction, as in the recipe will complete in 91% of the original time. And at 100,000, it's 89%. So it's almost a flat 90% in that range. Of course, it does eventually go to 0. So I don't know how high the heat can actually go, but if it can go to like millions and billions of Kelvin, then yeah, this would actually make a difference. But right now, it's just a straight up 10% discount, effectively. So, construct. 2 more upgrades are now available, and they both need a graviton shard, which I don't have. But this is super cool. I like that there's like a whole new branch of progression that's opened up to me. Super duper cool. Now remember, in the beginning, my maximum heat is 15,000 Kelvin. You can see the current heat in the stats overview. And for the power forge, my current heat is 12,601. To increase this, I need to provide more fuel. So let's try providing 5 fuel. At 5 fuel, the heat goes up to 16,570, but I'm capped to 15,000. And the lowest fuel I can provide, while also getting my 15,000 Kelvin, is 3. Now, the problem is, I still am not able to do the lossless phononic craft. So I am not sure. Maybe I need to progress the godforge first? Quite a bit, I would imagine, but I'm not sure. Oh, by the way, I said I would come back to fuel. You can configure the fuel consumption factor in this menu, the fuel configuration menu. It also shows you how much fuel is used, as in the liquid fuel, the dimensionally transcendent residue, that is. So I can change this consumption factor to whatever. If I hover over this info panel, it tells me how that affects things. I'm happy this is here, but I don't really need to do math, and that's a good thing. Anyway, right now I'm just burning fuel, and nothing is happening, which is not great. So let's get to smelting stuff. And to do that, I think I'm going to move my recipes over from the Mega Blast furnaces into this. And I can continue my progression into UMV. Am I ready? I don't think I am. Now, I am properly in the endgame, I think. The next quest is to make an Eye of Harmony. This is, like it says in the quest, the final multi-block in the game, excluding the Stargate itself, I guess. This thing is a monster. It's going to be horrendously expensive to craft, extremely slow to craft as well, and on top of that, it's complicated. Look at this tooltip. You see what it says at the bottom? Page 1 of 2. There's 2 pages. This is a long tooltip. That's super exciting. But I don't think I'm ready for that yet, to be honest. My power generation is sufficient, but not incredible. Currently, I make less than 2 trillion EU per tick, which sounds like a lot, but look at what I have now. Look at this thing. So I don't think it's going to be enough for very long. There is another option for me besides just spamming more Dysons, and that is Antimatter. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show this, but I did the tier 4 coil quest on stream, and the recording format was all messed up, so I wasn't able to show it. And I foolishly claimed this quest reward, so I got a Mark 6 Naquata-based fuel cell, which completed this quest. But I guess it's fine because I can make this. It needs Shirobon, so it's a bit expensive. I don't really want to do it until I have to. But Mark 6 Naquata fuel is used for antimatter. Speaking of antimatter, this might be a good next goal. This is also a very complex multi-block, and in fact it's one of 2. This is just to fabricate the antimatter. This one, the Semi-Stable Antimatter Stabilization Sequencer, also known as the SSASS or SAS, is super cool. I can't wait to build this thing. It's going to be monstrously expensive, unsurprising, but it's going to produce monster amounts of power, so that's great. The machine used to actually burn the antimatter, or to combine it with regular matter, I guess, is the Shielded Lagrangian Annihilation Matrix. This thing is also super cool. These need their own building, and of course, crafting it is going to take some time. Okay, there's a lot I can do, and I have no idea where to start. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will continue with godforge progression and scale up both power generation and fusion infrastructure. The new godforge modules will allow simplification of a lot of things. If you enjoyed Phil's performance of P-Man, stick around for a few seconds after this. See you next time.
Well, well, if it isn't the CEO of HamCorp. Perhaps you are hard at work? Or is your work too hard? Well, I suppose it does not matter.